And in this latter question, the Narodnik utopia plays a peculiar historical role. Being a utopia in regard to the economic consequences that a new division of the land should and would have, it is an accompaniment and symptom of the great mass democratic upsurge of the peasant masses. The masses that constitute the majority of the population in bourgeois feudal modern Russia. In purely bourgeois Russia, as in purely bourgeois Europe, the peasantry will not form the majority of the population. The liberal utopia corrupts the democratic consciousness of the masses. The Narodnik utopia, which corrupts their socialist consciousness, is an accompaniment, a symptom, and in part even an expression of their democratic upsurge. The dialectics of history is such that the Narodniks and the Trudoviks propose and promote as an anti-capitalist remedy a highly consistent and thoroughgoing capitalist measure with regard to the agrarian question in Russia. An equalized new division of the land is utopian. Yet a most complete rupture, a rupture indispensable for a new division with the whole of the land ownership, whether landlord, allotment, or crown, is most necessary, economically progressive, and for a state like Russia, most urgent measure towards bourgeois democracy. We should remember Engels' notable dictum: what formerly may be economically incorrect may all the same be correct from the point of view of world history. Engels advanced this profound thesis in connection with utopian socialism, that socialism was fallacious in the formal economic sense, that socialism was fallacious when it declared surplus value and injustice from the point of view of the laws of exchange. The theoreticians of bourgeois political economy were right in objecting to that socialism in the formal economic sense, for surplus value results from the laws of exchange quite naturally, quite justly. But utopian socialism was right from the point of view of world history, for it was a symptom, an expression, a harbinger of the class which, born of capitalism, has by now, in the beginning of the 20th century, become a mass force which can put an end to capitalism and is irresistibly advancing to this goal. Engels' profound thesis must be borne in mind when appraising the present-day Narodnik or Trudovik utopia in Russia. Perhaps not only in Russia, but in a number of Asiatic countries going through bourgeois revolutions in the 20th century. Narodnik democracy, while fallacious from the formal economic point of view, is correct from the historical point of view. This democracy, while fallacious as a socialist utopia, is correct in terms of the peculiar, historically conditioned democratic struggle of the peasant masses, which is an inseparable element of the bourgeois transformation and a condition for its complete victory. The liberal utopia discourages the peasant masses from fighting. The Narodnik utopia expresses their aspiration to fight and promises them 1,000,000 blessings in the event of victory, while this victory will in fact yield them only 100 blessings. But is it not natural that the millions who are marching to battle, who for ages have lived in unheard of ignorance, want, poverty, squalor, abandonment, and downtroddenness, should magnify tenfold the fruits of an eventual victory? The liberal utopia is a veil for the self-seeking desire of the new exploiters to share in the privileges of the old exploiters. The Narodnik utopia is an expression of the aspiration of the toiling millions of the petty bourgeoisie to put an end altogether to the old feudal exploiters. But it also expresses the false hope that the new capitalist exploiters can be abolished along with them. Clearly, the Marxists who are hostile to all and every utopia must uphold the independence of the class which can fight feudalism with supreme devotion, precisely because it is not even 1/100th part involved in property ownership, which makes the bourgeoisie a half-hearted opponent, and often an ally of the feudal lords. The peasants are involved in small commodity production given a favorable conjuncture of historical circumstances. They can achieve the most complete abolition of feudalism, but they will always, inevitably, and not accidentally, show a certain vacillation between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, between liberalism and Marxism. Clearly, the Marxists must carefully extract the sound and valuable kernel of the sincere, resolute, militant democracy of the peasant masses from the husks of neurodnik utopias. In the old Marxist literature of the 80s, one can discover a systematic effort to extract this valuable democratic kernel. Someday, historians will study this effort systematically and trace its connection with what in the first decade of the 20th century came to be called Bolshevism. Thank you so much for listening. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.